Thank you for joining us. Today is our second episode in Methods of Divination subseries, and we're going to introduce you to dreams today. Dreams are such a big part of our lives and are how we get most of our guidance.
Yeah, so we're excited to talk to you about it. This isn't going to be really a teaching episode because we could probably do a whole series on teaching dreams. And so for that, we'd refer you to the Robert Moss material. He's a master dreamer, one of the world's most famous dream teachers, and he has many books out there that have changed our lives. And so we feel they could change your life too. So just to review dreams briefly as a little intro here, dreams can do a lot for us. They can tell us about people we will meet. They can tell us about people we have met. They can give us financial advice, health advice for ourselves, health advice for others, career paths and decision-making assistance, relationship advice, healing trauma and unresolved issues with ourselves and others. We can get visitations from deceased loved ones, including pets, interaction with angels, masters, guides, the truth about what's really going on in the world, all sorts of stuff. And so dreaming isn't just one type of experience. Some of the dreams are advice for the physical. Some you're actually doing healing work for your soul in the dream world, and others are seemingly random storylines that could just be a byproduct of your body detoxing. We say that dreaming takes place in the astral, and what we mean by the astral is a level of frequency that exists in the universe that part of our consciousness exists in, and it's a frequency that's associated with the heart. Again, that'd be a whole nother episode to go into detail about that, but just understand that it's a real it's a real place. Just like the physical world is real to you, the astral world is very real. It's where we go when we drop our physical body, and it's not the only place. It's just the bridge. Some people stay in the astral. Some people move through the astral and beyond, or move into the astral and back into a physical body. There's all sorts of realities that are different frequencies, and the astral is just one, but it's where dreaming takes place. So if you hear us say the astral, now you got a little bit of an idea of what we're talking about. Okay, moving right along here. Now let's talk briefly about interpreting dreams. So with interpreting dreams, there's lots to be said. It's really something that's hard to put into words, but just to give you an idea, we use symbolism in dreams. And symbolism is very personal to the dreamer. But with that said, you can use Google, you can use ChatGPT or other AI sources and ask them, like, what does the meaning of a snake with its tail cut off mean? And I like to ask ChatGPT that more than Google these days because it groups everything that Google would have in separate links into one clear, concise response, and it gives options. It says, well, it could mean this, 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 or this, and usually one jumps out at me like, oh, clearly that's it for me. And so we sometimes get assistance with our symbols, and also symbolism drives me personally a little bit crazy. So it's just frustrating for me to have to sit there and try to like scratch my head about what does this mean.
But I think also if you have like a repeating theme in your dreams or a repeating place or repeating person, then ask yourself, what does this place or person or thing represent to you? Because that's really why it's appearing in your dreams. But for those things where you can't quite make sense of, ChatGPT is awesome.
Yeah, and one of my prayers before bed is to my guides, can you please give me literal dreams and not symbolic dreams? And sometimes that works, but definitely not always. So a little bit more about interpreting. We go with the emotion in the dream. It's pretty easy when it's literal. and it can be pretty challenging when it's symbolic, but those are pretty much the two ways. So symbolism, literal stuff, and then emotions and how you feel. And Robert Moss teaches the emotions in the dream and how you feel is one thing, but your emotion or your feeling, the first one you have when you wake up and think about it, that's primary to what you're feeling in the dream, as far as importance goes. Let's jump into talking about writing dreams down,
Yeah.
because that's a game changer.
Totally. And that's when I resisted for a long time. But it is so fruitful. And that is how we're really getting so much of our guidance, because we can go back and look at what we wrote. Because even when I wake up in the morning, I don't remember exactly what I wrote down throughout the night, as I have many dreams, many messages coming through. So it's super helpful to have that as a resource. And I know that some people may be concerned, well, then I can't fall back asleep. For me, it's never been an issue. I just keep like a sleepy eyes. I don't open my eyes completely. I just kind of keep my eyes a little sleepy, and I type into my phone. You could also use a voice recorder, but that really helps in knowing the body of the dream so that you're not just relying on your memory.
Yeah, writing dreams down is huge. And as Sophia said, we type them into our phone. My phone goes on its most dim setting and it's changed to black and white. It's really become not a big deal to just type something in, lay back down. I used to leave myself a voice recording, but I was trying to be quiet because Sophia's sleeping next to me. And I was just tired and I mumbled way too much. I couldn't even understand myself in the morning. So
Right, me too.
I stopped with that.
Yeah.
And Robert Moss keeps a written dream journal, and a couple things that he's always recommended that I like, if you're going to do that, is he writes on one side of the page only and leaves the other side for notes. He gives every dream a title, and then the titles go in the back of his dream journal as kind of like an index, because sometimes dreams may not make sense right away, and insights or a continuation or the blatant answers, they come later. And so it's helpful to have that book to go back and look through. And that's one of the things I like about using our phones, is because where we're doing it on the app called Signal in a note to self. And so it syncs with my computer, and I can go through my dreams on my computer, which I like to do rather than my phone, and I can search them for keywords. So that's what works for us.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the last topic I want to talk about here before we move into story time is about dreaming itself. I know many of you are probably like, well, I don't have dreams, or I don't remember my dreams. And so there's not one answer, and maybe someday we will do an entire podcast on ways to enhance your dream world, because I have a lot to say about it. Whatever I'm about to say, I don't even know what I'm about to say. I can tell you right now, it's not even close to the whole picture. So the first thing is meditation. I found if I'm taking care of my energies throughout the day, then it's all enhanced at night. My dream world is enhanced at night. That means meditating, eating healthy, hydrating, getting enough rest, etc. And Sophia and I take between 60 and 80 milligrams of melatonin before bed. That really helps us sleep well at night, fall asleep, and sleep throughout the whole night. It's a much higher dose than what they sell over the counter. And I know there's a lot of conflicting information about that. Medical Medium, who you may know we're fans of, says 60 is fine. And we've had some teachers in our past schooling that take up to 1,000 milligrams a night. So there's really a wide range depending on who you're talking to, but that's what works for us. That's what we do. Another thing is asking before going to bed. I ask what I want to know. I call on the angel of dreams. I call on Archangel Gabriel, because it's been said to me that he's an archangel that helps with the dream world.
And asking out loud is a big deal. Medical medium speaks about that as being the best way to be heard by the angelic realm. And so we do say our intentions for dreaming that night out loud before going to bed.
You actually had a dream, Sophia, that taught you about asking for dream guidance from the heart. Do you remember that?
Yes. So I was guided to ask my intentions for my dreams that night out loud from my heart, meaning that I'm holding a frequency of love and best interest for myself and others, and really asking with this genuine energy, really wanting to know so that I can improve my life, improve myself, and all those around me that I love.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to frequency. As I mentioned earlier, the astral is associated with the heart frequency. So if you're asking on that frequency, it's kind of like on that radio channel, then your ask is being given out to the world where the dream guides exist and where the guidance that you're seeking is existing or coming through.
Yeah.
So there's, like I said, probably a lot more you could do to help enhance your dreams, but those are some of the big ones. And I found asking, keeping a journal, and taking it seriously, and just those things together help enhance how much I dream. So let's move on to story time.
Story time! Yay! All right, I'm going to kick things off here with a dream I call Whether to Go Rafting or Not. In the real world, we were camping, Brandon and we went to go see a friend who we haven't seen in a long time, and there was a group of people there that we didn't know.
And by real world, she means waking world, because it's all real.
Yes, there you go. And so the energy was a little awkward that night, but we camped that night and we were kind of questioning whether we should go rafting with the group the next morning. We were camping in our car, and I went to sleep first, and I was sleeping very soundly that night. And toward the end of my sleep cycle in the morning, I had this very vivid dream, and it was like it was happening for real. I really thought this was happening. So I was in the car that I was in the waking world, and suddenly Brandon opened the back hatch because we have an SUV, and he pulled our car into two other cars. So the cars would have been lined up in a row. And when he pulled our car into the next car, it hit the next car beyond that, and it contained all the people who were camping with us. So it sent their car flying down this path and out of control, about to crash, about to hit a curb and flip, and bad things were going to happen. And I thought to myself in this dream, oh no, another awkward moment with this group. And so I was kind of mortified. I was mortified, basically. And so at that point, I look over and Brandon is going into a hotel to the right of the car. And literally, when I woke up, I thought this hotel was there. It was so vivid. And he was just going in to get breakfast, and then we were going to leave and not go rafting and let the group go rafting on their own. So we interpreted this dream. We see car as a symbol of consciousness. And when Brandon pulled our consciousness into the group's consciousness, it caused a negative reaction, a crash or something bad to happen.
Awkwardness.
And then also the decision was made in the astral. We were just going to eat breakfast, and then we were going to head out.
And so something we know about hotels just from years of dream interpretation is it's a temporary stay. So it was telling us that we were to stay there only temporarily. And since I was in the symbol for temporary stay, just having breakfast and then leaving, that's what we decided we would do.
Yeah, so it was perfect symbolism for us to really understand this dream and know the best action for us to take that morning. And I thought to myself, wow, that's really cool, because now we don't really have to have this conversation. It seems to already be decided.
Yeah, so we went home, and it was the best decision for us in hindsight.
Yeah, so very thankful for that dream.
Okay, my turn. So this is a shorter one, but I was shown that I was growing cilantro in white tubes that were horizontal. And I just wrote that down, and I didn't really understand what that meant, other than I figured at the time cilantro is a healing food for me, which is medical medium information, and I guess I was being told to place more importance on it. However, a couple weeks later, I was just cruising through YouTube and I saw a thumbnail of a video that a guy was growing plants in white tubes that were horizontal, and they were actually gutters that were capped off on the end. And this guy was hydroponically growing leafy greens there. And I was like, oh my God, that's exactly what it looked like in my dreams. And so I watched his video. His channel is awesome. It's called Keep On Growing, or Growin with an N at the end. I think now it's Keep On Growing with Mike. And he taught me how to do this. And so now we grow cilantro in horizontal gutters in all of our windows. And so that came from the dream world.
I call this one It's Time to Quit Call. The preface here is I had been on call for the local hospital at nights, and so I would get called in at all hours of the night, and it was starting to really, tax me, and I wasn't getting enough sleep, and it's just not a good way to live for 6 years. So in the waking world, Brandon and I had gone out for a date night that night. And on the way back, we were driving at night and we hit 3 deer at the same time. And it totaled the car. We were okay and made it home safely. But it was very traumatic, to say the least. So that night, when I went to sleep, I had this dream. The dream was that in the astral or dream world, we had also crashed the Camry that night. And Brandon and I and Rossi were on Brandon's motorcycle, and we pulled over on the side of the road, and this guy appeared on his motorcycle, bicycle, hybrid vehicle, and he had 3 dogs with him. We got off the motorcycle, Brandon and I, and Rossi, and we went over to the side of the road and started talking to this man.
Rossi is our dog, for those who don't know.
Thank you. And so I collapsed on the guardrail on the side of the road. I was so tired, and I was telling this man that we had crashed the Camry the night before. I was just exhausted, and I would usually be on my own motorcycle, but I just was too tired to do that. And his dogs, the man that we were talking to, there were 3 of them, and they were in a love pile as I was on the side of the road, collapsed, exhausted. So that was the end of the dream, and this is how I interpreted it.
Was there anything special about the energy of the man?
So the man, yes, thank you, had an angelic presence. I don't know who he was, but he was definitely someone of high frequency, an angel.
And in the dream, when we had crashed the Camry, it was you had crashed the Camry on the way to work, right?
Yes, so that's the most important detail. Thank you, Brandon. So in the dream world, I had crashed the Camry on the way to work. And in the past, in the waking world, I had hit 2 other deer on my way to work, commuting at nights. We live in a very rural area with a lot of animals on the road. So I wake up from this dream and start interpreting it. And the way I interpreted what it was that this angel showed up after this traumatic event. And
can I just jump in and say, it was an unfortunate event. We were not traumatized.
Yeah.
We drove the Camry home. It died in the driveway, and we made jokes the whole way home.
That's true.
As we held our cell phone lights out the window so we could see because we had no more headlights. We went back and prayed over the deer's bodies
Yes.
and all that. We weren't making a joke about the seriousness of taking an animal's life, but we were surprisingly lighthearted about it.
Yeah, you're right. We
So
were very grounded about it, and we were just like, as long as everyone's okay, then, everything's fine.
yeah, and with that said, it was unfortunate. So
Yeah.
go ahead.
So back to this angel that showed up on his motorcycle bicycle hybrid. I interpret motorcycle as a symbol of freedom, bicycle as a symbol of balance. And so it was a hybrid, it was a combination of those two. He had his freedom and his balance. We were on Brandon's motorcycle, which Brandon has his freedom. And I told the angel in the dream that, I'm usually on my own motorcycle, but we crashed the Camry last night and I was up all night because I was on call and we crashed the Camry. So I didn't have my freedom because I was on call. And the fact that I collapsed, exhausted, next to the guardrail or onto the guardrail is a symbol of real life. I was just so exhausted from being on call that I pretty much couldn't function in the daytime. So I was like falling asleep and stuff like that. And the last part of the dream, the angel showed up with 3 dogs. And dogs to me represent companion energy. And the 3 dogs were in a love pile. And so I got to see that I was missing out on the loving relationship between my family, me, Brandon, and Rossi, by being on call and not having that downtime for myself at nights. So the way I interpreted the dream led me to call my boss the next day and quit being on call. It finally gave me the courage I needed to stand up for myself and realize that this job was just too much for me, being on call at nights and not sleeping and then having to return to work the next day. So I'm very grateful for the dream. It is unfortunate that we had to crash a vehicle and that 3 deer lost their lives for me to receive this message, but I got the message and I really woke up to, wow, this is something I really have to change in my life.
And the messages had kind of been coming in through other dreams leading up to this big one and this big real life event, but I am also thankful for it because we both slept through all the nights after that and never had to worry, never had that, am I going to get called tonight? Just, you knew you were sleeping until the morning, and that's a major shift.
Yeah. What a difference sleep makes.
Yeah. My turn. So this dream I am calling Digging for Crystals. We had a rock hounding book, as they call it, and we were looking for crystals in an area near our house, which is outside of the main band that runs through Colorado where most of the crystals are found. And so it was a area that we'd checked before and came up empty-handed, but we went back, this was years later, for a second time, and we happened to find some crystals toward the end of the day near the surface, and we were completely stoked. We went home and decided that we were going to go back to that place for a longer time. We were going to camp for 2 nights, which would give us like 3 days of digging if we wanted to. And shortly before we went back for our camping trip, I was given a dream, and I was shown a map of the area, and I was shown where we had found the crystals, and I was shown to only search the dream. They drew an arc over where we found the crystals, which was on a mountainside, and showed me to only search where we found those crystals already and below. And so we went back with that guidance and did exactly that, and we found a bunch more crystals. And we found those within the first 2 days. And so by the end of the second day, we had brought a friend with us who was not interested in rock hounding, and he wanted to go on a hike to the top of the mountain. So being happy with the crystals I had already found, I said, sure. And we all went on this hike, and I brought my pickaxe with me, which was the main tool I was using, or we were using, to find these crystals. And I checked everywhere on that whole hike. which was above the area that we were searching, and I found nothing. And we were there for hours, and I checked, like I said, so many places, and nothing came up. And so we did the hike and came back, and then I went one more time to our spot and below it and found even more crystals. And it was just cool to have my dream confirmed. We found more right where they told me I'd find more, and we did not find any where they said not to look, but I ended up looking anyways. So that was really cool to get that guidance for hunting treasure in a dream and have it come true like that.
I call this one fresh celery juice. So we have a friend who we've helped get into medical medium information, and that involves drinking celery juice. And we know that she had been drinking celery juice, on and off. And so when she came to stay here, we do our whole morning routine, and celery juice is a part of it. And I had this dream. In the dream, I was told to tell my friend to stop buying the pre-made celery juice because the celery juice has to be fresh. Instead, to buy her own celery, wash it, cut it up, and juice it. So I wake up the next morning and I tell her, so I had this dream about you, and I told her the dream, and she was like, oh, busted. So I had no idea that she was buying pre-made celery juice, and it just was dream guidance for her so that she can heal her body in the best way possible, because only fresh celery juice is going to provide that healing energy to your body. And it was just really cool to have that confirmation.
All right, last one, and I saved my personal favorite one for last. So I did change the name of this person for privacy reasons, but I'm going to call this Kendra's face. And so this dream is part of a longer dream story, which I don't need to tell the whole long story here, just the relevant part. So in the dream, Sophia pulls into the garage downstairs, which is not how our house is set up in real life, but I go downstairs to welcome her home, and she gets out of the driver's side of the car, and a girl I don't recognize at first gets out of the passenger side of the car. And so to be polite, I go up to her and introduce myself and say, hi, I'm Brandon, and I stick my hand out, and she just stares at me in the dream, and I get this distinct feeling like, oh, I'm supposed to know her from somewhere. So I'm thinking, and I go, oh, Kendra, it's been a long time. I had to go into the far reaches of my brain to remember you. And then silently, I'm thinking in the dream, wow, her face has changed a lot. It doesn't look like the Kendra that I remember from growing up. Is this a different Kendra? And that's the end of that relevant part of the dream. So here's why it's a cool dream. The next day, Sophia and I were going to a local Reiki share, it's called, where different local Reiki practitioners all get together and trade healings on one another. And so this was the first time we had gone to it. We didn't know anybody. We just were introduced to the Facebook group around it through a friend. And so it was our first time showing up in real life. And it starts with 7 of us in a circle, all introducing ourselves. And the last person to go, her name is Kendra, and her face is the exact face from the dream, like exactly. And I was mind blown. And so I shared this with her at the end of the healing session that morning, and people were like, wait, do you two know each other? And we do happen to be from the same home state originally, but no, we don't know each other. She's not a familiar face from this lifetime, nor am I to her. And we did connect on Facebook. We have no mutual friends or anything like that. So my theory is that I know her soul from other lifetimes. and we have a soul connection. But it was just really mind-blowing to me to get the exact name and exact face the night before in a dream like that. Okay, it's time for our soulful send-off from our soul to your soul, unrehearsed. And what I want to say in this podcast is what you have here is a little taste. It's part of our sub-series of methods of divination where we're transparent about some of the ways we get guidance. And a lot of what's going to come in future episodes on this podcast channel is going to be dream related. So you have a lot more to look forward to. This was just a little taste. So hopefully it gives you the introduction and also motivates you to pay attention to your own dreams or do what you need to do, make the changes you need to make in your life to enhance your dreams. One of the things I forgot to say around dream enhancement that I think is relative to many people is the role marijuana plays. If you are a marijuana smoker, getting marijuana out of your life will really change the dream game for you. In my experience and the experience of many people I've talked to. With that said, as I mentioned in the intro, as you saw a little bit in our stories, you can get so much from dreams as far as life decisions and health advice and financial, and it can just really, really be a massive aid in your life.
Yeah, I agree. And that's what it is for us. If you have questions that you're not able to answer for yourself, ask Spirit. See what comes in your dreams. Be open to receiving guidance from the other worlds or from what we consider is our higher self sometimes, what would be best for all.
Thank you for joining us on this episode, and we'll see you again soon.
Bye! Every week, we share our most recent divine guidance in an audio recording called Oracle Offerings. Sign up for only $5 a month at patreon.com/Aspen Roots.